Have you ever felt that deep, quiet loneliness on a rainy night? Well, today we're diving into a classical Korean poem that captures that exact feeling perfectly. It's called Ujung, and it was written over 1,000 years ago. By the end of our time together, you're going to understand every single character and feel the full weight of this poet's lonely heart. So here it is, the whole thing, just 20 characters written in Hanja. And I know, at first glance, it might look like a beautiful but locked box, totally impenetrable. But trust me, we have the key. We are going to unpack this masterpiece, character by character, until its deep meaning is crystal clear. So who's the person behind the poem? Well, meet Chiwon, a literal genius from the Silla dynasty in Korea. This guy was brilliant, studied in Tang, China, and was a huge success there. But when he came back home to Silla, he just hit a wall. The rigid class system meant he couldn't get a position that matched his talent. And that feeling, that frustration of not being able to reach your potential, that's the very ink he uses to write this poem. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the title to set the scene. Then we'll decode the poem 2 lines at a time to really get into the poet's head. After that, we'll put all the pieces together to see the full picture of his lonely heart. And finally, we'll talk about why this ancient poem still feels so relevant today. First things first, let's look at the title, Choe. It's made up of 4 hanja, or classical Chinese characters, which were used in Korea for centuries. We've got Chu, pronounced Chu, which means autumn, then Ya for night, next is U for rain, and finally Jung, which means in the middle of. So right from the get-go, the title literally drops us in the middle of an autumn night's rain. You can already feel the mood, can't you? It's somber, it's quiet, it's thoughtful. All right, now for the first couplet, the first 2 lines of the poem. This is where Chiwon really starts to lay out his deep, profound sense of being utterly alone in the world. What I love about this line is how it immediately connects the outside world, that autumn wind, directly to what the poet is feeling inside. Let's break it down. So if you're learning Korean and its Hanja roots, this is fantastic. We have Chu for autumn and Pung for wind. So autumn wind, then comes we, meaning only. And these last 2 are so important for the feeling. Kul, which means painful or bitter, and im, which means to recite or chant poetry. You can already see how these characters are building not just a sentence, but an emotion. So how do we string those characters together? Well, in the grammar of Hanmun, classical Korean writing, it flows into this line. In the autumn wind, I only recite painfully. See, he's not just reciting poetry for fun. It's a painful chant. It's a lament that he's putting out into the wind. Now for the second line, "Se로 지음." And wow, if the first line set the mood, this one just comes right out and tells us why he's so sad. This line is the absolute core of his loneliness. Okay, let's look at these characters. We've got Se for world and Ru for road or path. Put them together and Seru basically means out on the road of life. Then we have So, which means few or lacking. And now for the 2 most important characters in the whole poem. Chi, meaning to know, and In, meaning sound. So he's lacking someone who knows his sound. What does that mean? This is so cool. The term jiim, to know the sound, isn't just about friendship. It comes from this legendary Chinese story about a musician named Becca. His music was so complex that only one person, his best friend Jongjagi, could truly understand the deep meaning, the sound of his songs. When Jongjagi died, Becca smashed his instrument and never played again. Why? Because there was no one left in the world who could truly hear him. So when our poet says he lacks a jiim, he's making a huge statement. He's saying there is nobody, not one person, who understands the music of his soul. Okay, on to the second half of the poem. Here, the poet does something brilliant. He creates this powerful contrast between the cold, dreary world outside his window and the massive, sprawling world inside his own mind. The third line is 청의 함경우. This line just paints the picture. It's simple. It's direct, and it tells us exactly when and where this moment of sadness is happening. Let's look at the characters. Mado, Chung, is window. Soto, O, is outside. Pretty straightforward, outside the window. Then we have Sam, which is the number 3. Then Sok, Kyung, which is a watch or a traditional division of time at night. And of course, Ame, U, for rain. But What on earth is the third watch? Samgyang is super specific. In ancient times, the night was divided into 5 watches. The third watch, Samgyang, was from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So think about it. This isn't just some evening shower. This is rain in the dead of night. It is the quietest, the darkest, the absolute loneliest hour. The choice of this specific time just cranks the feeling of isolation all the way up. And now for the final, absolutely stunning line, 증전만 리심. After looking outside at the rain, the poet's focus snaps inward, and the sense of scale just explodes from this one tiny room to the size of an entire country. So here we go. Dung is a lamp. Jun means in front of, so he's sitting there in front of his lamp. Then we get this incredible scale. Man means 10,000. Li is an old unit of distance, kind of like a mile. And finally, sim, which means heart or mind. So, sitting there in front of the lamp is a 10,000 li heart. All right, we have all the puzzle pieces. We've looked at every single character. Now, let's put them all together and see the full, heartbreaking picture of this scholar's lonely heart. And this is the central genius of the poem. It's all about contrast. Outside the window, you have the third watch rain. It's a small, cold, dark, real world. But inside, in front of the lamp, you have the 10,000-mile heart. His mind, his heart, is stretching across a vast distance, filled with these huge ambitions the world won't recognize, and a deep longing for his home that feels impossibly far away. So when you put it all together, these phrases become powerful symbols. Go, that painful recitation, isn't just words, it's the actual sound of his frustration. So, ji, lacking a soulmate, is his despair at being completely misunderstood by society. And Manrisim, the 10,000-mile heart, represents the massive scale of his dreams and his yearning for a place where he truly belongs. So why are we still talking about this short 20-character poem more than 1,000 years after it was written? Well, it's because it taps into something totally universal and human. Chiwon wasn't just complaining about his job prospects in the Silla Kingdom. He was giving a voice to a feeling we have all had. The feeling of being alone, a feeling like no one in the world truly gets you or sees your true worth. It's that feeling of having a huge, boundless heart full of hopes and dreams, but being stuck in a small, lonely room on a dark, rainy night. And that really brings me to a final question for you to think about. When have you felt that? When have you felt your own 10,000-mile heart stretching out on a rainy night, full of dreams and longings that feel a world away? Let's read it one last time, but now with our new understanding, with the full emotional weight of every word. In the autumn wind, I only chant painfully. On the world's path, there are few who know my sound. Outside the window, rain falls in the dead of night. Before the lamp, my heart travels 10,000 miles. It's just a timeless, perfect expression of a lonely soul.